Interception in the end zone. He's breaking out. He's at the 5. He's at the 10. He's at the 20, the 30, the 40. He's picking up speed. This is incredible. What a comeback. What a comeback from obscurity. He's at the 30, the 20, stumbling over his own feet. Oh my God, he fumbled. The team picked it back up and ran it back to the end zone, rendering this whole thing pointless. Oh, Tony Khan, you just had one job. Just cap the pay-per-view off correctly. You were so close. You were ever so goddamn close. At the end of the day, all they're going to remember is the goddamn finish. And that was a shit finish on top of what was a pretty goddamn good pay-per-view. So let's talk about it all, shall we? I'm John Rickton with my review of AEW Revolution 2025 from the Staples Center. It's the Staples Center. That's what I'm going to fucking call it. The Crypto.com arena, by the way, for those that are curious, yeah, they're in LA. 20,000 seating capacity roughly, and they had almost 12,000 people there. And that crowd was pretty goddamn raucous until that main event. That is one of the biggest downturns in crowd energy I have ever seen. I thought the downturn in crowd energy at Wrestle Dream 2024, which I was there for, and I maintain that Tony Khan killed the live event market in Washington State. He can try and bring Wrestle Dream back, and I guarantee you he will not draw 6,000 people. But that being said, I was happy to pay $50 for this. I actually did buy the bundle on Triller TV with Dynasty to save a few bucks, because why not? But you know what? I was happy to pay the money for this. I was more than happy to pay the full price for this, because there were some memorable moments. There were some matches I didn't think I was going to end up liking, given some of the things that happened. But man, that finish, that fucking finish. And I don't have any hope they're going to do right based on what the closing moments were. So let's talk about the 0 Hour panel. So Renee and RJ, Jeff Jarrett has apparently completely just given up on the whole world title push thing. Paul Walter Hauser is a fucking idiot. I just want to say that right now. So there were a couple actresses from Queen of the Ring. It was Kelly Berglund and Damaris Lewis. Don't worry, more on Miss Damaris a little bit later on. They played Nell and Babs Wingo, played by Damaris. And I had a review of Queen of the Ring that I posted a couple days ago. You can check that out. Harley, well, she looked good. QT was there and threw a drink on Paul Walter Hauser. Nobody wants to see this match. Nobody wants to see this. So let's just run through the goddamn pre-show really quickly. We have Hologram and Commander Homander, as I called him, with Alex against Lee Johnson and Blake Christian, whatever. Stupid referee Rick Knox, Excalibur, Shivani, and Taz on commentary. And I'm just going to say it right now, while I appreciate what Shivani has provided as far as historical stuff from wrestling, you know, going back to the Crockett days and even going to WCW, he provides nothing on commentary. Excalibur is terrible. Taz couldn't even really carry this. And I think Taz is actually starting to get actively pissed off about it. They brought JR in at a couple points. So, they did very choreographed shit in this tag match. We got apron spots and a 450 for 3 on Blake. So, there you are. So, Renee brings out Ash Avildsen. He encouraged people to see Queen of the Ring. I do encourage you guys to see this in theaters and decide for yourself. Support independent films. I'm kind of curious what the box office numbers were, because Sumerian Pictures did not release the box office numbers. That being said, Garcia and the Undisputed Kingdom of Cole, O'Reilly, and Strong took on Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Carly Bravo, and Captain Sean Dean. Menard was on commentary. He may be the single worst commentator they have. He is terrible. He is fucking... Booker T's worse, but Booker T's also a full-time commentary. Anytime Menard is on commentary, I can't fucking listen. I don't care if he's a nice guy. He's rotten at this. Hook, Shibata, and Joe, or rather Hook, they're watching from the skybox. And Lee tapped to Garcia as Cole got upset that Garcia did a blind tag. So they're still continuing that stuff. Package on the Hurt Syndicate, and they're at Iron Addict's gym. Chris Jericho faced Gravity. The jokes write themselves, but that match didn't actually happen because he beat the shit out of Gravity with a bat. Big Bill and Brian Queef were there. And Bandito came out because we need this feud to continue because nobody was really wanting to see anything involving Chris Jericho. And I don't care if he's trying to be more serious. It's stupid. The high guy stuff was stupid. This is stupid because he's a bloated beanbag chair that was left out in the rain. He can't fucking wrestle anymore. But anyway, he beats Darby with the He beats Gravity with the goddamn bat. I think Darby actually may need to come back at some point. Forget going to goddamn Everest, just do some. Anyway, he beats Gravity with the goddamn bat. Here's Bandito. We get another beatdown. Gravity gets unmasked. Now, mind you, there's family members at ringside. Weak bat shots. Super weak bat shots. Aubrey goes and gets, I believe, the mother and the sister of Gravity, while there is a large man in the ring, a very, very small cowboy, and a bloated beanbag chair whose wife was at the January 6, 2021 insurrection attempt, in the ring while their unmasked family member is there, and Bandito is completely beat down. And Aubrey, instead of getting security or the fucking police, and I like Aubrey, do not get me wrong, but they made Aubrey look like a goddamn idiot. Yeah, sure, family members, just come on in, it's okay, it's all just faking bullshit. And it's not these people put their goddamn lives on the line, but this is fucking rotten. Everything involving Jericho is fucking goddamn rotten. Tony Khan needs to just pay him and get rid of him. There is no need to have him just eat the goddamn contract. You got enough money. Jesus. Who asked for this? Who booked it this way? Probably Jericho. He had the input. Anyway, yeah, good way to endanger the family. And again, I like Aubrey, but they made her look like an idiot. Young Gravy, who is that? Apparently, they said he was a rapper. He looks like, I don't know, like a skater. So, Cassidy, Briscoe, Big Boom, AJ, with whoever the kid is and whoever the shorter kid is. Randy Newman was right, by the way. Took on Johnny TV and MXM Collection. Taya, good God. They had one of the kids of that Big Boom AJ guy dressed up like Orange Cassidy. The crowd loved it, and I will say that AJ, hit some good punches, and Harley got Taya and attacked her, and there was the kid did a power bomb. I yelled, "Get the kid! Just please end this. Just find a way to end this." Anyway, Dio got pinned. You thought Mansoor would get pinned, but it was him, Dio. And then Archer and Cage show up, and then Hobbs shows up, and there were two goofs that showed up. I don't know who they were, and I don't care. The crowd liked it, but I don't get it. MJF teased us with Hangman's old theme, and MJF and Hangman had a pretty good opener. To me, it was along the lines of what Hangman and Jay White did. I was in the room. That was a lot of fun to watch that. I was a little bit surprised that, MJF hit some good stuff and targeted the shoulder and did good work, but he hit a tombstone on a chair at one point, but Hangman still won, and I don't necessarily get why. He did hit the buckshot, the foot got on the ropes, that was nice. He stumbles outside. I don't know why they need to do the tombstone on the outside, but even targeting the shoulder, good psychology. But then MJF's upset because he can't get the victory. He's yelling, why him, why not me? But then he got hit with a Vicious Angel's Wings and another buckshot lariat, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm not upset about it. I am this is the most interesting Hangman has been, even if I still have my issues with him. Because I just think sometimes his promos aren't that believable. I'm a bit surprised MJF lost. I would have thought MJF would have won. I wonder if they're going to start pushing MJF down the card, to be perfectly honest. It's a little bit weird. But that being said, it was what it was. It was a fine opener. So far, we're 1 for 1. I don't really count the pre-show. Mercedes took on Momo Watanabe, or Watanabe, however you say it. TBS title match. Go for the weave, Momo. It's the source of her power. A powerbomb on the floor. That seemed painful. Billy Starks was up taking notes because she's been involved in skirmishes. Verbal skirmishes with Mercedes. Poor Billy. Billy could have just come out of the womb and been a better talker than goddamn Mercedes. And Billy is going to get better. She's only 20. I have seen a little bit of her work. She actually did have a match at an indie promotion a few years ago. I didn't get to go to. I did get to see the match that was shot for the YouTube channel at the time, and she can work, and she's actually not all that bad in the ring. But the way she was dressed is like she was dressed as the best friend of the lead in a coming-of-age rom-com from like the 90s or early 2000s. I don't know why I thought of that, but I was like, all right, that's weird, but it is what it is. It was fine. I have a hard time getting fully invested in Mercedes because her in-ring work is mostly solid to even pretty good. Momo isn't bad in the ring. I just didn't have the investment in this. I'm not saying it was awful. It could have honestly been on TV, and I don't think we would have been amiss. But you could argue also there should have been a women's match on the pre-show because they got enough women to where, I'm not saying you need to make it 50-50, but maybe you could do a little bit more with it. But we get a Meteor on the apron for no reason. Mercedes got dropped on her face. It would have hit her it would have affected her brain if she had one. The crowd woke up, and we got an avalanche Uranagi. That was pretty nice. And then Mercedes, it seemed like she got rocked, but she was able to hit a crossbody, eventually hit the Moneymaker, and get the formerly bank statement on Momo to get the victory. Okay. And then we got a weird drum solo entrance for Swerve and Ricochet. And the whole thing is Prince Nana wants the robe back. Otherwise, if Swerve can't do this, then he may not be able to be aligned with him. This also is the number one contenders match, and you know what? It was pretty good. This is probably the best Ricochet's heel work has been, because he's not using the scissors. You're Still Bald chance, that was pretty nice. Leslie Jones was there, which reminds me, the 2016 Ghostbusters is Poison, and she was a big reason why, because that movie sucked. It was rotten. It couldn't have been saved by anybody, even if Leslie Jones actually was talented. And she seems nice in interviews, but she's not a comedian. She's not funny. But we get a Rana for 2. We get, a powerbomb, the powerbomb pickup into the slam for 2. So that's pretty nice. That's beautiful. Poison Rana on the apron. I hate the Poison Rana. We got a Gringo Killer, or whatever the hell you call it. Nightmare on Helm Street was something else. Like the Vertebreaker, what Shane Helms used to do in WCW, and even a bit in WWE when he was a Hurricane. But Gringo Killer, that's what Homicide called it. And Ricochet got folded up. Again, no brain up here, so that's why he didn't get hurt that badly. I am the table, as it were. A stomp for 2, and then we get to, a Northern Lights, a Northern Lights suplex, and then a Buster for 2. We get the 630, which Ricochet just landed on him flush. That had to have knocked the fucking wind right out of Swerve. If it didn't, I don't know how. Nana came back. By the way, Nana left at one point when he got shoved earlier, and then came back and got the robe briefly, but then got dove on by Ricochet. He got the robe back. A DVD catch on the floor, which looked painful. Could have been a disaster. They're chanting bald. It's like Balls Mahoney, except Balls Mahoney had charisma. Vertigo for 2. And then, we get a near collision. It looks like, oh no, Ricochet is going to get the victory with Nana causing the issue. But nope, house call times 2. Big pressure, pushing down on him, pushing down on Ricochet's shoulders for 3. And they got the robe back. Everything's happy-go-lucky. And Swerve gets a number one contendership shot. I still think that this feud is not over. I think Ricochet is probably going to cause Swerve to lose that, because I think we're going to get one final match out of this. Some big blood feud. Or some big bloody match, probably. Don't worry, I'll get to those. Okada took on Brody King for the AEW International title. And, yeah, LA was barking. Brody chopped and chopped. He hit a superplex. Okada's chest was red. Eventually, he did end up hitting he hit a belt chop, but just for 2, but hit the Rainmaker later, 1, 2, 3. Can you tell what matches I cared about? Hurt Syndicate took on the Outlaws. Even with a couple bobbles, look, the Outrunners are going to get there. The Outrunners are going to get there eventually. They're just not there yet. They were probably nervous being on the big stage. They did well, besides a couple bobbles. It happened. This is more of a TV match, to be perfectly honest. I'm not upset that the Hurt Syndicate got a pay-per-view match. We heard people chant. They were cheering the Outrunners, doing the thing, you son of a bitch. That was nice. We did have Turbo Floyd powering up. That was nice. But we did get a couple spears and 1, 2, 3. Again, TV match was what it was. Not all that bad. All In Texas plug. They need to move it to a smaller building. They're set up for 18,000 in a 40-something thousand baseball stadium. You can't shoot that and make it look well. Shame Reunion Arena isn't around anymore. JR joins commentary for the following match. When I saw it was a women's match, I'm like, oh no. And I like JR. Mariah May, the Glamour herself, looking to regain the AEW Women's Championship against timeless Toni Storm in a Hollywood-ending match where there's a picture of when Mariah made Toni all bloody. That's not a euphemism. A table with the Hollywood stuff that looked more like Hollywood Video logo. Luther was there for some reason. I mean, people say this is the best use for Luther. I don't really think he needs to be on camera. I think the Butler stuff's kind of done. But it's for the AEW Women's Championship match. And despite my reservations about a couple things in this match, this was the best thing on the card. I understand why it didn't close, because they felt that the main event would actually be a hotter finish, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. This really should have closed the show. And then again, given what happens in another match a little bit later, maybe it's a good thing this helped it peak early. Let me say right now, both these women worked hard, and I hope they're both okay, because they took some really hard bumps, some really rough bumps. It was really kind of brutal at times. And I give them credit. They laid that shit in. They both bled. Mariah does end up hitting a dropkick, sending Luther over the goddamn table. We never see him again, which I am perfectly happy with. And then a powerbomb off the stage. I thought that Toni might have busted her mouth the way she was, selling. But then landing on the barricade, a DDT on the floor. Landing crotch first. And people say, oh, that wouldn't hurt a woman. It's still private parts. It would still hurt. I think it would hurt a woman more, actually, to be perfectly honest. Just saying. Ladies, the few women that watch this, let me know. Would that actually hurt? I think it would. So, Storm Zero on the steps, and that's when Toni started bleeding. And let me just say, she was gushing. She either bladed too deep, or she hard-weighed herself on accident. But however, she was bleeding, and it was something. I was getting a little worried there. It wasn't quite Judgment Day 2004, but it was close. Hip attack in the corner with a chair over Toni's face. So far, Mariah's cooking. The Glamour is trying to ram her. You know who you are. You stop that. And then they each end up pulling out buckets with champagne glass, and they have tape because they're going to do the Taipei death match stuff. Not like Ian Rotten and Axel Rotten, because these two can work. I mean, I'm sorry, but they just can't. Ian could never work. But that being said, it was something that put ECW on the map for good, bad, or indifferent. So they do the tape fist stuff, and this is where I was afraid it was going to lose me. Because I know why, the broken champagne bottles. I get that. I get why they were doing it. I just don't know if it was necessary. But they got me back into it, so I can't fault them for that. You might be surprised by that, and I was surprised by it as well. And then a bottle right in the cooch, and man, that is the second roughest thing I have seen a woman have shoved up there on the internet. You honestly don't want to know about the first. Pending cases. Moving on. So, Toni, I was afraid was going to bleed out at this point. I was really, really worried she was going to bleed out. Storm Zero, for two, we're getting some big pops here. We're getting some big moments. We got a shoe going. We got the shoe action, rather. And, get the bloody shoe, all that, when Toni got busted open. They go to the stage, Mayday on the stage. There was Mayday in the glass. They were doing a lot of bumps in the glass, which I think I kind of could have done without. But whatever. They wanted to do the stuff. I just hope they're okay. I'm dead serious when I say this. Give them at least a week off. You got other women, Joe packages. Give them a week off. Give it next Dynamite you want to bring them in, fine. You probably even give them 2 weeks. Well, I don't know if you give them 2 weeks off because Dynasty's coming up soon. And the shoe hit, and then Storm Zero, through a table. 1, 2, 3, big pop, celebration. And Tony retains and is splayed out all over Mariah, bleeding and everything. It's like a slightly less violent version of Blue is the Warmest Color. I can work Blue is the Warmest Color seemingly into just about any review. Somebody said it was like The Substance, and I absolutely popped for that because The Substance was not only great, but my favorite movie of 2024. So, hats off to the ladies. Good stuff. Really well done. And then we get to Omega versus Takeshita. This is where, unfortunately, the pay-per-view started to hit a wall. I'm going to explain why. What they did, slowing it down at first to build up, I get it. The thing is this, and the last 3 matches, in all honesty, needed to have about 5 minutes cut off each. So, Don Callis is on commentary, by the way. It's for the International Championship because we need more championships on this particular show. See, the thing is most of the matches up to this point have been actually fine. Or in the case of Tony versus Mariah, it was one of the best things on the goddamn show. We get a table set up, we get barricade bumps. Omega's selling his stomach because of diverticulitis. I do have to say Don Callis is not necessary on commentary or at ringside and really doesn't need to be involved in this company. Like, that could be kind of taken as a personal shot by me, but I really don't see the goddamn point in him being utilized when he's not very fucking good. And also with how creepy he is around the women, allegedly, except not allegedly. But this dragged is what I noted. Callis kept interfering. Paul Turner looked like an idiot. So there was a drop on like one of the bearings of the table or whatever it was, and then it dropped when the table was laying on its side. And okay, so that's fine. You have Takeshita doing that. Then we get a V-trigger, we get knee strikes, we get boom, 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 boom. They're finally firing up, and that's when things at least picked up a little bit. So Blue Thunder Bomb for 2, bomb off the top for 2. We got a nice, driver. We got some good action going. Takeshita can work. I hate to say it, but I think his ceiling is basically this in AEW. I'm wondering if his contract's up soon. I know he signed with New Japan as well for a year. I wonder if WWE maybe could make a call. Because I'd say New Japan could use him better, but New Japan is trying to push Gabriel Kidd or Gabe Kidd. The guy that called Mariah May all kinds of things because she said that Sid Scalia apparently was really, really not nice towards her is what I'll say. I'll just use that verbiage. Gabe Kidd might want to find better people to defend and actually sound like a normal person instead of somebody like with Tourette's that's being shocked in the balls. That being said, the knee strike by Takeshita, but just a 1 count. The pile driver for 2. We got knees. We got a poison Rana. Callis interfered again. But that didn't stop Kenny Omega from eventually getting the victory. They traded roll-ups, but then Omega uses smarts. 1, 2, 3. New champion. Pyro. Okay. This is building to Omega and Okada at All In. That's where we're going. So, Ospreay versus Fletcher in a steel cage. I want to say right now that this match had me for a bit. They did. Kyle Fletcher also needs to pick a goddamn look and stick with it, and I can't unsee it. He was staying on top of the cage after climbing it. Ospreay was staying on top of the cage after climbing it. I don't know who told Ospreay that theme was a good idea. That beginning part, whatever the hell the intro was, but it wasn't good. So, Ospreay ends up bleeding badly. I mean, he really was bleeding something severe. There was an exposed buckle shot. He hit some twist, whatever the fuck it was that they called it, off the top rope for 2. Kyle was then bleeding badly. And so far, they were doing some good stuff. And then, unfortunately, Mark Davis shows up for whatever reason. Not that I necessarily hate Mark Davis, I just don't understand why he's there. But he shows up basically, breaks into the cage. He puts a bag in there, a bag of weapons, which this match didn't need. This match was cooking. I'm not saying that you couldn't have maybe hidden 1 weapon or 2 somewhere like, in the little crevices and stuff like that, maybe just under the ring apron. I'm not saying you couldn't have done that. But the fact is when they involved the weapons is when it lost me. Mark Davis got kicked and started bleeding. I don't know if it was actually intentional or if I don't know. But a barbed wire bat gets involved, which we didn't fucking need. I mean, I'm sorry, we just don't. Yes, Will Ospreay got to channel Cactus Jack. That was whatever it was, what it was. More Mark Davis, more drama. The drama first before Mark Davis came back in. About the United Empire and the armband, and Kyle managed to outsmart him just long enough to hit a low blow and then stuff the armband with blood down his throat. Mark Davis stopped a 3 count, but then a poison Rana. And a chair blade to like Davis, where he basically hit the hidden blade, slamming his elbow into the chair. Ouch. But in a super os cutter, that could have been the finish right there. Okay, would have been ridiculous, but 1, 2, kick out. What? And then this kept fucking going. They brought out a screwdriver. The damn screwdriver's at the top of the damn deal. Kyle just conveniently manages to climb up there and get the whole damn thing. And the stabbing with the screwdriver, it's stupid. It was dumb when they did it with Ospreay and Omega, and it's still dumb now. And then they brought out Tax, and that's when I threw my hands up and just said, that's it. They can't fucking control themselves. A Styles Clash on the Tax. Yes, I said that the women using the glass didn't bother me. As far as the champagne celebration, that kind of stuff, I can overlook that. I can overlook that stuff. You don't need to involve Tax in every single cage match, which they did it in the Lights Out match that Swerve and Hangman have done. They've done it in WWE also. They've done it in a lot of stuff. And you don't need to. You don't need to involve weapons in a cage. You don't need to involve weapons like in War Games, like they did for the women. I can be fair about this. But Jesus Christ, they're on top, they're battling with the screwdriver, and then a super Spanish fly. Ow! Ow! And then a hidden blade and the Tiger Driver 91, 98,000, whatever the fuck it was, 1, 2, 3. The finish was one thing, and Davis interfering and trying to get in and getting kicked out, and one weapon getting thrown in. Okay, I could buy that. But this was at least 8 minutes longer than it needed to be, and it fucking felt even longer than that. And then they talked to Damaris and whoever the fuck the other one was. What the hell was her goddamn name? Kelly. And Damaris said something. One thing I learned about wrestling is you all know who's gonna win before we do. Yes, that's true. Why would you put that on pay-per-view? Why would you do that? I don't get it. Okay, they gave Copeland a big sing-along entrance. JR joined commentary. Moxley came to the ring. And I'm just going to basically say this is one of the worst main events I have seen on any wrestling program. This is worse than some of the stuff I saw in the dying days of WCW. People have rejected Jon Moxley. They were even rejecting what Copeland was doing because he took out Pac, Claudio. Willow took out Marina, and he tried to get respect, show respect to Wheeler. This crowd rejected everything. A stomp on the exposed floor. Wheeler showed up and ended up, hitting Copeland because we all knew, and Shivani compared it to Stockholm Syndrome, and that's actually what this really did feel like. We were being held against our will to watch this. And you can defend AEW all you goddamn well want, but this is terrible. This is where the $50 was worth it until this. Khan should have offered people half the goddamn money back. Because this was an abomination. Jon Moxley may be the worst wrestler on that goddamn roster. And yes, there's Jericho. We all know Jericho can't work, but Jon Moxley is fucking washed. He can't do anything anymore. He's creatively inept. He's a goddamn moron. None of his ideas are any good. None of the stuff he does in the ring is any good anymore. And then Jay shows up and accidentally hits Copeland. And he looks so shocked that Wheeler Yuta gets him and they fight off. They just fight off again. A near 3 count, a spear for 2. And then another, 2 more spears. The referee, by the way, has been knocked out. Because Bryce is made to look like an idiot. And suddenly, 1, 2... because Bryce comes back after taking a nap for about 8 years. Suddenly a hooded figure pulls him out. It's Christian. He's going to cash in. He hits a spear. And Then that gets broken up. And then it immediately gets choked out by Moxley. And Moxley wins. So that's a waste of a goddamn cash-in. The whole thing... Not that I wanted Christian to be the goddamn champion. I mean, I certainly didn't want that. I don't need more old people being champions. I'm sorry, I just don't need that. But god damn it, I mean, what a way. You got yourself into this situation. You couldn't find a way to get you out of it. Now what are you going to do? Have Copeland get another rematch? I'm not even saying I want him to be the champion. This stuff with Moxley has been bad. I was there when he beat Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Dream. He is a terrible champion. He's easily the worst world champion they've had. Keeping in mind Chris Jericho was the worst world champion. This incarnation of Jon Moxley is a good reason why AEW will never be able to grow their audience again. And Darby could come back and save the company. Darby, who's one stupid bump away or one stupid action away from paralyzing or dying. Paralyzing himself or dying, however the verbiage goes. I am so sick, so sick of watching this company shoot itself in the foot. I buy these pay-per-views to watch this stuff, to review, to have content, but also because I love professional wrestling. WWE has their deal with Peacock. I'm willing, more than goddamn willing, to pay the few bucks and watch those. It's convenient. But they need a deal with Max, or they need a deal where the pay-per-views are cut in half or something, and they find a way to have other revenue streams. Because they're dropping in attendance. They got a big house here. It was almost twice the size of the crowd at Wrestle Dream 2024. But they give them this finish. And yes, then Swerve attacks Moxley after Nana basically, distracts him and stuff like that. And okay, Swerve could beat him at Dynasty. I don't think he will. And even if he does, if he does, you could have Darby against Swerve, and you could have two Pacific Northwest guys, and maybe you could build that to Wrestle Dream where Darby eventually wins, but I don't think they're that smart. I think Swerve's going to get fed to Moxley, which is going to totally kill Swerve, who's just getting rebuilt now. And I still think they're not done with Swerve and Ricochet. There are not a lot of good options. What are you going to do? Have Copeland win? I'm sorry, but I don't need to see him as a world champion in AEW. I was there for his debut in 2023. It was awesome. But they have so many problems. They have so many things that they need to address. And Jon Moxley's right at the top of the goddamn list. Tony Khan needs to clean house. And he also needs to get people in and know how to book, because he can't book. All they're going to remember is the finish. There were some awesome moments on this pay-per-view. But I have no faith that they're going to do the right thing. And even if Swerve does win, who's he going to face? Who's he going to face? They've killed their main event scene. And we can thank Jon Moxley for it, because that's all he knows how to do is kill shit. Good job, Mr. Badass. Maybe you'll actually figure out how to wrestle again. And I defended Moxley for many, many months longer than I needed to. And should have. He is easily the worst wrestler they have on their goddamn right. It's prominently featured. Jericho obviously is more washed, but Moxley is way worse. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.